Now we're going to do our experiential tech update where we're just going to go through some of the basic questions about what's happening now in this market. So let's bring on Brandon and Jason. Hi, guys.
Hey, how's
Hello.
it going?
Thank you both so much for joining me today. Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me too. I appreciate it. My name is Brandon Harp. I'm Director of Digital Experiences for McCann Systems. We work at the intersection of human experience, technology, experience design, content, and storytelling. So we're often being asked to help design and build and service systems that have this experiential kind of immersive nature. And it's certainly the exciting part of AV for me and my job anyway. I've been in audiovisual for 15 years, started in digital signage, still have a love for all things 16 by 9, but also very much look forward to trying to find new ways and new technologies to fit display technology and things like that into architecture and so forth. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're stoked you're here. Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jason Opp, co-founder and COO of Kaufman Media. We are a digital signage solution provider serving a multitude of industries, whether it be in the cannabis, the retail, the quick service, corporate manufacturing worlds, and a strong emphasis in healthcare. We're helping those guests, implement scalable solutions, whether it be, day-to-day digital signage or whether it be some sort of, experiential signage for their facilities. And we're doing that across all of North America and also Mexico as well.
Awesome. So let's dig right into today. In your opinion, what is the most critical trend in experiential design right now that is currently shaping the Pro AV market, and how is it enhancing audience engagement?
Jason, me or you?
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Well, thank you. Kind of piggybacking on a webinar that I did last week, and then we also had it was a Digital Signage Federation, a VIXA thing, and then we did an event at Tad's offices last week on Wednesday where we were talking about sensors and triggers and engagement and how technology in kind of a personalized way is speaking to people. So, kind of piggybacking on that, what we've been asked of recently is finding new ways to utilize things like depth sensing cameras or LiDAR and so forth to trigger some sort of an experience or an emotion or even just an individual moment. What I find interesting about that, and we can maybe talk about it further here on today's episode, but is finding ways to utilize technology such as triggers and sensors and things to influence either wayfinding or even drive new forms of revenue streams. Those are a couple of the kind of the key topics that we've been hearing quite a bit and kind of been unpacking over the last few weeks anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with Brandon as well. Sensors and other real-time events that can trigger the digital signage experience and down to a personalized experience for that individual guest if possible. Because we all want something that what's in it for me. They want to see that customized experience when they're walking in, or at least allow them to give access and control to serve up the experience they desire.
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself for a second. So, as the line between physical and digital spaces continues to blur, how can tech professionals leverage hybrid experiences to create a seamless transition for users?
I can take that one. So I'll give a shout out to my friend Dave Wilkins and Synaptic AI. We were on again the panel last week with at Tad's office in New York City, where we were talking about how to blend technology, real time interactivity, and storytelling to help kind of redefine digital presence as well as engagement. Engagement's a key word, I think, here. It always has been whenever we're talking about something experiential in nature. And so utilizing platforms that like this that are being kind of touted as a visual experience platform really allows for users to be able to elevate their digital experience through both this physical and virtual world, right? We've talked a lot about the metaverse and AI and all these different kind of technologies that all kind of influence the way that we go about our daily lives and work and so forth. And platforms like Synaptic are really exciting to me. And we just continue to try to find new and exciting use cases for those kinds of things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That you've got to figure out a way to meet, that user, the audience, wherever they're at, and then blend those elements all together. Brandon's world is, probably much more familiar with, those types of engagements than, us more in a traditional, focused digital signage world. But we're starting to see that, come into the experiences that we're building out for our clients.
Another hot topic is eco-friendly, sustainability type things. And we also just want to mention again that we've partnered with Save for this week. So thank you to them. So how can integrators and designers address the growing demand for sustainable and eco-friendly solutions in experiential tech installations?
Go ahead, Jason. Or you want to keep the same order? We can mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's a great question, and it's something that I think we're slow to adopt, at least from the U.S. market. But one, it's thinking about how to take care of the current infrastructure. Can we repurpose any of that while we're working on these experiential tech installations? Figuring out how to kind of meet these carbon footprint goals of the customers, and designing the infrastructure to where we're aligned with the organization's goals. So that's something that we've been working with a lot, and then trying to again get the last mile out of what we can from existing legacy infrastructure, and then when we do take it out of the field, have a plan for that to where again we're aligned with our clients' goals and initiatives.
Yeah, and I echo what Jason said. I think it's about proper planning and upfront understanding of what those goals might look like. Every project is different. We do quite a few airports and have been working in those kinds of environments now. And you've heard probably a lot in the news about net zero and carbon initiatives and so forth, and getting airports to be far more sustainable and eco-friendly. I think it's about planning and just kind of general understanding of the project goals. And then, as technologists, playing a role in that, right? I think at the end of the day, if everyone's looking to achieve those same goals, be present, play your part, step up to the table, find ways to use less electricity, or various different things that go hand in hand with the technology that we're speccing, but be mindful of that technology and how to best go about it so that you're helping meet those goals across any given project.
And that's a good point, Brandon. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I think Brandon, you're spot on. Talking about planning, and sometimes the end user and the client may not understand or know that it's even possible, because again, it's slowly starting to become an adoption or a talking point around digital signage, of being proactive and bringing it up in the initial planning conversations, so they know that how you're approaching the project, and here's what you're doing to kind of target their goals, or do they even have any goals that we need to keep in mind to make sure we're in aligned with. So planning is key.
And even taking it a step further, Jason, sorry, Megan, didn't mean to cut you off. I would advise to the people listening that, if your company doesn't already have a sustainability statement, or even some, bullet points around, how you might tackle something like that, we would highly advise, putting something together so it helps everyone, whether it's the salespeople or the engineers or whoever it is that's helping develop a solution, is kind of keeping that in mind, and kind of understands the the company's general feeling towards sustainability, right? And then you can take those same goals and responsibilities that you've outlined for your organization and apply that to your given project.
Do you find that you and or your clients are proactively seeking out companies that have sustainability plans? Like, does that really matter, I guess, is the point of the question. I think, in terms of manufacturers, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a checkbox nowadays, especially on the manufacturing side. If we're remoting power or doing something where we're saving energy costs and efficiencies and so forth. I mean, we deal with a fair amount of LED projects, and with these big LED displays, one of the biggest things that everyone talks about now is, or even just puts their hand out, is, well, how much heat is this thing producing, right? And how do we keep the heat levels down, and does that require less power if the displays aren't getting as hot and so forth? So it's simple little like nuances like that you can think about and just kind of keep at the forefront of your thinking as you're developing these solutions that, believe it or not, when you add them all together, they make a difference.
It's true.
Right.
Are they thinking like, okay, thinking in terms, you just kind of mentioned like thinking in terms of a specific product about it, but do they look at the company overall? Like I know Sony and PPDS and Legrand, for example, all have very big sustainability plans. Are they proactively looking at and saying, what is this manufacturer's plan? Or is it just like more on a per product basis?
From our perspective, it's
no, you first, Jason.
From our perspective, I think they're leaning on us, they being the customer, on bringing forth the right manufacturers that's going to align with their goals and initiatives if they have them. And then if we have kind of a carte blanche opportunity to bring a solution, I believe it's our goal to then say, here's what these manufacturers we've lined up to achieve your solution is doing, from a sustainability factor. And then that way they can take that whole solution and roll it into maybe a win versus one vendor or another, and also then be able to take that to their leadership and either tie it into their current structure, their current initiative, or else have that data for when that organization starts to build out their plan or initiative.
Yeah, I would just add to that specific projects that we've seen recently. There's some that are, the big building in Manhattan, fully electric, right, and things like that. And so while it carves out the goals, I think it's every person that's or company that's working on a project like that. It's kind of your opportunity, right, to say, well, let us be a part of that, or let us help you reach that goal. And to me, that's being a good steward of your client, right? And so if there's just thinking that through and asking, kind of, again, going back to what I was saying before, asking the right questions or planning early, because it's usually driven by the architects, right? The architects are the ones that are saying, hey, here's the sustainability goals on this given project. What if they're not asking you what you can do to help, maybe you ask them that question, right? And just knowing, and it could be something as simple, if it doesn't call it out in the RFP or the brief that you were given, maybe it's something that's said in a press release or something somewhere, where you just do a little bit of homework and you realize that this is a project that is, has those types of goals, and try to help them attain it.
I love that. We've been talking a lot about trends, but I want to talk a little bit about challenges and successes next. So, what is the largest challenge that you think we currently face in adopting and scaling experiential design trends, and how can we overcome them?
Jason?
Yeah. Honestly, it still comes down to, planning, the actual project, the infrastructure, from our perspective of ensuring that all of the teams, so if we're, bringing it in at the architect level, as Brandon was mentioning, ensuring everything is built out properly, because more times than not, I still think that digital signage becomes kind of not an afterthought, but a last mile. Hey, we want to plug this in. It'll be a nice to have. And then, being able to facilitate the desire at that point versus what's currently available creates a really large delta and gap in what could be attained without sending cost overrun to the end user.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking, I think, too, again, on my sessions from last week, because they're still so fresh in my mind, was that there was a poll question that was asked to the folks that were listening in about, what are some of the challenges that you face with these types of technologies? And because we were talking about triggers and sensors, and things of that, cameras and such, much of the usership was either not aware of the technologies, or was a little frightened by it, in the sense that they're not as familiar with it. So when you're designing a system, or you're coming up with a solution for one of your clients, where do you turn for those products? Who do you talk to? And how can you get maybe the right partner involved to help you shape that solution? And I think that's that kind of goes back to the overarching message, I guess, which is, proper planning, right? It goes, it's kind of any given project is proper planning, but, don't be afraid to reach out to, specialists like, Jason and myself, right? We do this for a living. We know it very well. We attend the trade shows, we talk to the manufacturers, and we have real world experience in terms of designing and implementing these technologies. So just know that you've got, partners and so forth out there who can help you craft those solutions. And I like to say we're all in this together. So
that's right.
Jackie actually brought up a similar point earlier when she was talking about gesture-based things and all of that. She said they went to like a museum or somewhere where but it wasn't working, so they couldn't experience it. So it's about like finding the technology that, like, what do you do when it goes down, and having a backup. I mean, you're always saying, Brandon, plan, but that's another part of it.
Well, I would just say, as a systems integrator at McCann, we place a lot of emphasis on service, right? A lot of our competitors and so forth leave service for the very end, or it's an afterthought, right? Or it's not thought of early on in the process. We actually move that to the front of the line, and we talk about that service both post once it opens, but ongoing support, and most of a large majority of our team and our company is support technicians, right? And that's the reason I think that we're as effective as we are, and that we've had many of these same clients for 20-30 years, because they all know that at the end of the day, we didn't just finish the project and then that was it. We're there till the bitter end, and we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that their systems are working and that they're happy. So I think that moving that managed services conversation to the front of the line is something that we would highly recommend.
Yeah, I think service, has to be, kind of over everything else. So I definitely agree with you, Brandon. I think the other side to that, from the managed services side, to ensure that it works, is also making sure that your audience understands how it works, so they get the full experience of the solution as well.
And be asking the right questions, right? I think
Yeah.
service can come in a variety of different forms, shapes, and levels, right? So we like to look at and talk to the client early on about what is it that you really need, what do you expect, what have you gotten previously, where do you see a need, and then we make sure that we tailor something that best suits them.
Speaking about things that work, I want to hear from you guys. What is an example that you've personally worked on of experiential technology transforming customer engagement?
Jason,
From our perspective, we had a healthcare installation where we created a very immersive exam room experience. So both for the doctor and the patient. So when you're walking into the exam room, everyone's already a little on edge, for whatever the case may be for the visit, but getting them some customized content while they are in there for you, Megan, and it's going to have some relevant information. But then as the provider walks in, they're able to gesture or touch to their display, so that then they can take what is on their laptop and get to the screen. They can dim that screen if it has a customer with light sensitivity. They can just turn it off if it's not going to be of use for that particular exam. And then as the provider is leaving, they're able to use another trigger sensor again to turn it back to its normal environment, so it's ready for the next patient. So going to the very genesis of this conversation, triggers and sensors is able to create a really unique, very tailored experience for a user or for a client.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I mean, all those points that Jason made are good ones, and very much in that same kind of vein. We've noticed that there's been a lot of talk about personalization, and even on this call, we've been going over how a personalized experience is far more meaningful. Being that we do a lot of work in airports, what I've been finding recently is that there's been a lot of requests for technology that is multifunctional, and it expands beyond airports. It's also very much in corporate, and we can maybe save that for later on. But in airports in general, you're either looking at setting a mood for someone, creating an experience that puts a smile on their face, makes them happy. It also has a lot to do with wayfinding, but with wayfinding, you can also tie that to revenue streams. It could be an area where it's a bit of an attraction and it's playful and it's fun and it's interactive and it's creating something for children and for adults. But it can also act as a wayfinder to drive you towards the the food court, right, or to the concessions area, right. So if you're spending more money on food and beverage because you're in a good mood and you're happy, well, to us, that's a very unique, engaging, connected experience. And so we often find ourselves talking about connected experiences, and I've been touting it for as long as anybody's been willing to listen, especially in airports. But it's to me, it's exciting, and I think that seamless journey it's only a part of that seamless journey.
Yeah. I'm going to have one more question for you before we go to some audience questions. Looking ahead, what emerging technologies do you believe will have the greatest impact on the future of experiential design, and how can we prepare for these?
Well, I think the one for me that stands out is the forgotten audio because everybody is so highly focused and dialed in on video and what your eyes see that I think we often forget about the other senses sometimes. And audio in a lot of cases can be seen as kind of an afterthought. So when designing spaces nowadays and working with experienced designers and architects and content producers and people like that, we're making sure that audio gets brought up early on and that it can be part of that seamless integrated experience. I've seen some really interesting and neat products out there in the market recently. One that I was introduced to is an audio product that actually allows for, it's a software that can be used with any speakers, speaker agnostic, but the audio actually follows you. So it can move with you as you move from space to space. And then as you get to a certain room, it can cut off and then another piece of audio, another track can pick up, which is really neat. But it's kind of in the same line of immersive audio and just kind of steering, these content experience right to the person as opposed to the larger room, right? So now you're creating that individual personalized experience, which I think people are wanting. And I hate to say it, it's because of this, though. You're so used to having your phone and this is your personalized experience and you hold it like this and no one else can see it or touch it unless you're way out here. But that's what we've all become so used to. So having those kind of type personalized experiences, I think, is really where we're going to see a lot of these conversations going.
Yeah, great points. From what we're seeing is really, creating solutions that minimize the manual lift from a digital signage perspective and, making that experience happen. So whether we are designing content from data, so in the quick service world, we're taking, data that's, built in as long as it's been cleaned up and done well from point of sale systems and generating content templates with, triggers and real-time events that are facilitating that content change based upon events that are outside of a human's control, and it just happens. And we're seeing the same thing kind of trickle down into our healthcare experiences, into our manufacturing experiences, because everyone's wanting to get more dynamic data without increasing the lift of the manual labor hours that go into those systems. And so I think planning for that and how to prepare is ensuring that your current system can facilitate data binding and doing open APIs and things like that to tether into third-party systems, or if not, ensuring that the solution that you might pick to be that 2.0 3.0 solution does have that in mind, because it's only going to continue to get more dynamic as we go along.
And Jason, are you finding that your clients are treating the signage networks that you guys are designing and building for them as more of a mission critical sort of situation? Because I know I've noticed that recently, and we've, I think, been doing a fairly good job, us in the, I say us people in the digital signage industry,
Yeah.
you included, talking to clients about the mission criticality of digital signage nowadays. And I think you said earlier on, there's, some of it can be a nice to have, and even things that used to be just a nice to have, to me, feel like they're at the forefront of technology now. The CIOs, the IT folks are all getting involved and having their say, but it just feels like giving people real-time data or the right information at the right time faster than them having to try to fumble and pull this out to be able to look for an app or a website, to me feels like a really great way of being able to communicate not only, relevant information, but data and so forth.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People are, it used to be, quick service restaurants or other, so that should be the normal mission critical signage. We're seeing it, transcend and even into, basic applications or into corporate or manufacturing, because the data that we are putting on there is, now a very important piece of that whole structure in the communication pipeline, that if it's not working as intended, then the success of the system is not there. So, we're seeing all of our SLAs kind of get tightened up across the board from the client's ask, and how fast can we get something that's down back up and running?
Let's go to an audience question. They say display technology is constantly changing, and with new advancements like micro LED and OLED, how is that shaping the future of experiential signage?
Yeah, so I think it's obviously the pixel pitches are getting tighter and tighter as we go. I've even noticed recently there's been a lot more requests for outdoor LED, and making things IP67 rated. Making the pixel pitches tighter, making the products that much more durable and stronger and so forth. But even the pixel pitches have become tighter, on outdoor applications, is something so that we've been seeing. So I think LED obviously is it's a commoditized product. There's a lot of it out there, and it's just about understanding what is the best application for what you're trying to do. And from my perspective, it's kind of taking over, right? Or it is taking over. I think the amount of LCDs that we do, aside from just single screens here and there that kind of will always be there, or maybe in a boardroom or something. But LED is really kind of taking that over, and I don't think that that's going to change. If anything, everything is going to be LED at some point, whether it's micro LED or it's a really fine pitch or it's OLED for that matter.
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%.
Jason, I think this question is for you. Regarding the lighting adjustment for patients example, could such setting be logged and then accessible by the doctor and assistant by selecting the patient's name?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could have that, log be part of the session, because we're able to see all of the triggered events, and then we can, then take that and correlate it to a patient. Absolutely.
Let's do one more audience question. What about based platforms and digital signage? How are they influencing scalability and flexibility?
Jason, that one's probably for you.
Was it club based?
Cloud-based.
Cloud. Oh, okay. And then so now that I understand it's cloud, can you repeat it one more time?
Sure. How are cloud-based platforms influencing the scalability and flexibility of digital signage?
Yeah, so great question. For us, for the last 15 years, we've been nothing but cloud. So that does limit, or did limit some of the markets that we can serve. But, I think with everyone, really diving into the advancements in their security measures, and what they're trying to do, and to create data sovereignty, based upon different geographies and where they might be housing, the actual application, and then the servers, and then the actual, residency of that particular customer. And then also the scale of just cloud in general, it does allow a system to scale faster and at a better cost structure than kind of an on-premise based solution that's going to have its own upkeep, even though it's on-premise and might be a perpetual based. There's still maintenance and pen testing, and things like that have to go into account, which is kind of a hidden fee, if you will.
And
Maybe.
I think we're often asked too about just the accessibility of it, right? Is having a cloud-based platform or something that's HTML5 based, where you can log in from virtually anywhere in the world. You could be the administrator, the power user of the system, and you're traveling in Europe for the week, and I got to make an update to one of my displays, or I need to reset the content experience for a client coming into an experience center or something. So I think the flexibility is always something that we're asked about as an integrator, and how do we also make it flexible enough for users of different levels, right? Because there's always an administrator or somebody who's that power user, or multiple power users, but then how do you keep people who are maybe not intended to, do certain things to, certain pieces of content or, templates and things like that. But maybe they just need to update a welcome message or something. So I think it's, kind of goes hand in hand with kind of the scalability of it, but also the user friendliness of it.
Yeah, and I would also caveat that not all cloud-based solutions are created equal. You have to pick a partner, pick a solution that has kind of that 2.0 architecture in mind, that they kind of, because what got them to where they were isn't what's going to get them to where they need to go in the future. So just ensure that they have the right architecture build, they have the right headless kind of top end, that they can be API first driven, because again, as we're connecting all of these different third-party dynamic data pieces and different things like that, it's going to be key in order to facilitate some of these advances that we're talking about.
Thank you both so much for joining me. We are unfortunately out of time. Jason, if people want to connect with you, learn more about you, your company, where can they find that information?
Yeah. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Jason Alt, or on our company page as well, Kaufman Media on LinkedIn.
And Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn works probably the best for me as well. I'm, pretty accessible on there. So yeah, just, Brandon Harp and McCann Systems, if you want to learn more or talk to us about any questions or anything that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for joining me.